our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good evening, this is Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. On the show tonight, Lord Young, founder of the Free Speech Union, is here to discuss some old emails and whether organisations like Hope Not Hate are going beyond their remit to try and shut down legitimate free speech. We have an exclusive on Free Speech Nation which may help answer why many people feel that the Crown Prosecution Service is failing Jewish people. A shocking new investigation reveals how those charged with defining the new Islamophobia definition are revealed as having extremist links. The High Court has ruled that employers can legally ban transgender women from using female toilets and changing rooms. So, are those findings of the court being misrepresented, and what impact does that have on democracy? And plenty more, including comedians answering some crazy culture conundrums from our live studio audience. But first, the news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Josh. 7 o'clock here in the GB newsroom. Our headlines. The Foreign Secretary says the government could impose fresh sanctions on Russia after finding the Kremlin killed the political prisoner Alexei Navalny with frog poison. The UK and 4 allies say their analysis showed Moscow was responsible for the death of the opposition leader in a penal colony 2 years ago. The Kremlin maintains Mr Navalny died of natural causes and has dismissed the findings as a Western hoax. Well, speaking at the Munich Security Conference, Yvette Cooper said only the Russian government had the means, motive and opportunity to use it. Her US counterpart Marco Rubio has described the report as troubling.
We obviously are aware of the report. It's a troubling report. We're aware of that case of Mr. Navalny, and certainly it's, we don't have any reason to question it, or we're not disputing or getting into a fight with these countries over it, but it was their report, and they put that out there.
The Prime Minister's facing calls for an inquiry into a Labour think tank's investigation of journalists. The Sunday Times says Labour Together, the group that helped make Sir Keir leader, hired lobbyists to investigate the personal, political and religious backgrounds of reporters behind a story about secret donations that fund the think tank. It's reported the group paid £36,000 to a US lobbying firm to discredit the newspaper by falsely suggesting its reporters had links to Russia. Reform UK's head of policy, Zia Youssef, has refused to rule out a right-wing coalition in future. His comments come amid claims the right could be divided following the launch of Rupert Lowe's new political party, Restore Britain. Well, speaking to GB News earlier, Mr Youssef said Reform would have to do the patriotic thing in a worst-case scenario, but also said the prospect of teaming up and doing deals is a big if. The former Liberal Democrat leader Vince Cable says the police should investigate Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor over claims he leaked confidential information to the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It's reported the former prince passed on details about the £45 billion government bailout of Royal Bank of Scotland, details he learned about in his role as trade envoy. Sir Vince, who was business secretary at the time, reacted to the allegations reported in the Mail on Sunday, accusing Andrew of dreadful, cynical behaviour. Mr Mountbatten-Windsor has denied any wrongdoing. Hundreds of thousands of people have joined worldwide demonstrations against the Iranian government. The biggest took place on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference, where people responded to calls from the exiled son of the late Shah for a global day of action. Reza Pahlavi addressed around 250,000 people, calling for the overthrow of Iran's Islamic regime. There were also big crowds in Los Angeles and Toronto, with smaller protests taking place in cities including Tel Aviv, Lisbon, Sydney and London. Thousands of Iranians were killed in a deadly crackdown on anti-government protests last month. And Team GB have claimed a second gold medal at the Winter Olympics. Charlotte Banks and Hugh Nightingale won the mixed team snowboard cross. It is Great Britain's first ever Olympic title on snow and the first time Team GB have won 2 gold medals at a single Winter Games. And those are your latest headlines. I'll be back with more at 8 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. This is a show where we cast our gaze across the spectrum of culture, current affairs and politics, doing our best to bring a bit of common sense to that which has become senseless. Lots to come on the show tonight, including the silence surrounding the murder of Christians in Nigeria. Is the ruling of the latest court case on trans toilets being misrepresented? And we have an exclusive, which will be very concerning to many Jews about how the CPS covers cases. But first, it's not nice to have baseless accusations thrown at you to try and shut you down, but perhaps it's not a great idea to do it to someone who's set up an organisation to protect free speech. Hope, not hate. Have they overstepped the mark? I am now joined by the founder and director of the Free Speech Union, Lord Young. Hello. Thank you. So, recently there are obviously a lot of emails being released about the whole Epstein files. Your name sort of popped up, and then Hope Not Hate was like, look, Toby Young's written some emails. Please give us some context.
So I don't think the most recent, but in the penultimate release of Epstein files, they included 2 emails from me to Ghislaine Maxwell, who I knew slightly when I lived in New York from 95 to 2000. These were emails, I think one was 24 years old, the other was 25 years old. I sent them to her long before her then ex-boyfriend, I think, Jeffrey Epstein, had pleaded guilty to child sexual offences. And just for the record, Josh, I've never been on the Lolita Express, never been to Pedo either, never met Jeffrey Epstein, never exchanged messages with him, never been in the same room as Jeffrey Epstein.
You've never even been to an island.
So on the basis of these 2 emails to Ghislaine Maxwell, Hope Not Hate ran a story on its website saying that my links to Epstein's circle needed to be scrutinised.
Wow.
And the implication was that I was a wrong-un who was in the Epstein files and had clearly got up to no good with this kind of notorious convicted paedophile who, at that stage, looked like he might bring down the British government. Well, I thought this was a little bit rum because a couple of weeks later, someone described as a political organiser for Hope Not Hate and a Labour councillor in Barnet, now resigned, pleaded guilty to child sexual offences. He's even on the Hope Not Hate website listed as a contributor to Hope Not Hate's blog. And so the connection of everyone at Hope Not Hate to someone who's pleaded guilty to child sexual offences.
How many emails have they sent to him?
I mean, their connection is far closer than my connection to Jeffrey Epstein. So, according to their logic, shouldn't they now be investigated because they're members of this person's circle? I mean, it was, of course, I don't think they are guilty of child sexual offences, but if you wanted to smear them, there'd be a better basis for the smear than there was for their smear against me. And I'm not the first journalist that they've smeared in this way. I mean, they pose as an anti-fascist organisation, and yeah, maybe in the past they have done some good work exposing far-right racists and so forth, but more often they label people far-right or extremists who you and I and most people watching this show would consider mainstream journalists. So Rod Liddell, for instance, Melanie Phillips, Douglas Murray. Douglas Murray even related in The Spectator how when Hope Not Hate were threatening to include him in a report about far-right extremists in British journalism, they said, if you take down a critical article you've written about Hope Not Hate in The Spectator, we'll leave your name out of this report, which is the kind of tactics you'd expect, a gangster to involve, to engage in, not a supposedly respectable campaigning organisation. And, there are lots of question marks about Hope Not Hate's funding, its finances. There is a charitable arm called the Hope Not Hate Charitable Trust, I think, and then there is the campaigning arm, which isn't a charity, called Hope Not Hate Limited. And the charitable arm has received taxpayers' money. I think it received over $400,000 from the UK government in 2019 and 2020, and then gave over $1.2 million to the campaigning arm in 2022 and 2023. And then at the 2024 general election, Hope Not Hate, the campaigning arm, actually campaigned against 10 sitting Conservative MPs, including GB News' own Miriam Cates.
So they're not impartial?
They're not impartial. I think it's the relationship between the campaigning arm and the charitable arm, which does receive taxpayers' money, needs to be scrutinised very carefully. And like Labour Together, which has been in the headlines today because it commissioned this American lobbying company to compile a report on the personal and religious background of a Sunday Times journalist who had exposed irregularities in the funding of Labour Together, the main think tank which was responsible for Keir Starmer's successful leadership bid and set up by Morgan McSweeney, who until recently was his chief of staff. So it's not untypical for organisations like Labour Together, another organisation also set up by Morgan McSweeney, the Centre for Countering Digital Hate. They present themselves as being respectable. They have a good relationship with various different government departments. They give witness evidence to parliamentary select committees looking at bills. So this Labour councillor, now ex-Labour councillor, who's pleaded guilty to child sexual offences, gave evidence to Parliament about the Online Safety Act, why there was a need for greater regulation of the internet, even though he was caught out by a policeman posing as a 13-year-old girl on the internet and sending her a dick pic, or sending him a dick pic. So the levels of hypocrisy are quite staggering. But I think
I just have to say we have to say penis pic.
Sorry, yeah, but this seems to be the modus operandi of these lobbying groups with very close links to the Labour Party. Instead of engaging in open and honest debate with their political opponents, they just engage in these underhand smear tactics. And in the case of Labour Together, they actually paid an American lobby company, £36,000 to effectively smear these two Sunday Times journalists, and they passed on the dossier that this American lobby company had produced, which was full of misinformation and complete fictions. They passed it on to GCHQ, to the British intelligence services. I mean, absolutely astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, when I actually had to message you and say, look, please come in and talk about this, because what also sort of struck me was their hypocrisy, because they're like, this guy, Toby Young, he sent these emails 20-plus years ago, and look, the Free Speech Union represented Lucy Connolly, and you're going, well, yes, but the point is that you're also representing with the Free Speech Union people on the far left who are people who have come out in support of Palestine Action, for example. Now, I would argue that those people are despicable racists, yet Free Speech Union are living up to their name because you're also defending them as well.
Yeah, we're a non-partisan organisation. It doesn't matter what your politics are. If we think that what you've said or done is lawful and you're simply exercising your right to lawful free speech and you get into trouble, whether it's with the police or with your employer or with your university, we will come to your defence. And as you say, yes, we defended Lucy Connolly. We helped her with her appeal of her sentence, which I think most people agree was far too severe for a single tweet, more than 2.5 years in jail. But we're helping someone, as you say, who's being charged because he held up a sign saying, I support Palestine Action. So, yeah, we support people from across the political spectrum. So we're not a far-right campaigning organisation, as Hope Not Hate would have you believe.
And I guess that's sort of just incredibly frustrating to read that, because they are so partial, essentially. When there's space for an organisation that calls out hate. Of course, everybody prefers hope over hate. Right. But they, of course, don't seem to be targeting where a lot of hate in this country comes from. And that's, you know, when it comes from the far left, when it comes from Islamists, they seem to be particularly silent. And it's frustrating that so many of our politicians will go straight to them and other organisations and just kind of go, oh, well, if Hope Not Hate said it, then this must be true. Do you think that's having an impact on the kind of wider discourse of us being able to, what we are able to talk about?
I think it is. I mean, I think you're right in saying that Hope Not Hate, to the best of my knowledge, have never had anything to say about the pro-Palestinian marches, about people chanting things like "from the river to the sea" and "globalise the Intifada," you know, which are much more obviously, I think, manifestations of hate.
As opposed to a couple of emails.
Than a couple of emails sent by me 25 years ago to Jeffrey Epstein's ex-girlfriend, or indeed anything Douglas Murray or Rod Liddell have written in The Spectator, or Melanie Phillips. But I think why they're dangerous and sinister is they are very tightly embedded in Whitehall. They're constantly being consulted by the Home Office. They give evidence over and over again to parliamentary select committees about bill. They pose as experts on extremism and on online hate, just as the Centre for Countering Digital Hate poses as an expert organisation on hate on the internet. But what they're not honest about and upfront about is that they have a very clear hard left political agenda. They are, you know, some people would say, extremists, political extremists themselves. So under the guise of calling out fascism, of identifying hatred and cleansing the internet, the public prints of hatred, they're actually promoting a pretty sinister hard left agenda.
Yeah, well, look, I very much look forward after this report to a Hope Not Hate Josh Howie exclusive. Follow me on Josh X Howie. You can find all of my terrible posts there. But in the meantime, a big round of applause for Lord Toby Young. Thank you. Sorry for any language that you might have found offensive. We've reached out to Hope Not Hate. We are still waiting for a response. They describe themselves as a non-partisan and have previously said these releases do not imply any wrongdoing on Young's part, but given that Toby Young sits in the House of Lords, it is in the public interest that Young's association with Epstein's circle is scrutinised. And the CEO of Labour Together, Alison Phillips, who joined after the APCO report was commissioned and delivered, said, "I am committed to ensuring Labour Together aspires to the highest standards of probability at all times. We stand ready to support the PRCA and other relevant government bodies with its review of this issue." Next, on Free Speech Nation, it is time for our audience questions, and we have some doozies. See you in a couple of minutes.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. My comedian guest this evening are Aideen, McQueen and Cressida, Wetton. I love that Aideen doing your royal way there. Very, very good. How are you doing? I haven't seen you for ages.
I've been busy. I've been doing a tour in Ireland of my solo show, so I've been kept busy with that, yeah.
Oh, wow, OK. Now, how do you... I mean, when you... I don't know about you, Cressida, but when I hear about a comedian who's doing better, I get very angry and bitter.
No, I got cuddled at home. I'm fine.
Oh, you're OK. You're OK, then. Well, I'm really happy for you, Aideen.
I mean, a tour in Ireland, though, it's probably like doing a tour in the Shetland Islands, you know? It's not that big of a deal, but still.
I think that's
good,
great, man.
yeah.
Well, congratulations. Well, let's get some questions from our audience. Our first one's from Ryan.
Hello, everyone. My question is reform welcome at UK universities?
Yes, is reform welcome at UK universities? So a student debating society barred Reform UK MPs from speaking, citing concerns over racism, transphobia and homophobia. Reform UK said the decision undermines free speech. The party threatened to cut £30 million in public funding if elected, sparking a wider debate on campus freedom. So there's an irony here, of course, Ryan, that a debating society, a political debating society, doesn't actually want to hear from the party who's ahead in many polls.
Yeah, and it's crazy because they're predicting that what they'll say will not be, you know, kind, or not that they like what they're hearing, and instead of let's actually have the debate, and if we don't like what we're hearing, we'll robustly challenge the debate. That's surely what free speech means.
And that's what debaters. Now, Ryan, I'm going to guess that from your trousers that you're a Reform supporter.
This is true.
Every Reform supporter must wear light blue trousers. So, Aideen, I mean, this is ridiculous.
It seems to be, although I was looking up Bangor, and Bangor is an Anglesey, so it's right between Liverpool and Ireland. So if you were stuck between those two people on a plane, I think most English people would be against free speech as well. But I'm saying that against myself. It's just a lot of phlegm to deal with. Yeah, of course it is. Of course it's ridiculous. If you strongly disagree with somebody, you would invite the opportunity to challenge that person in an intellectual institution like a university, if only for it to convince them of what you think is right. So it makes absolutely no sense.
Yeah, I mean, Reform, we've seen this before. There was a story last month where University of Sussex, also there was a Reform student society that people were very upset about, and I believe they got some death threats.
Oh, God, we always have to jump to death threats, don't we? Calm down. Can we not have a chat about speak when we get to death? No, it's outrageous. And it means that lots of students there are deprived of an opportunity. I mean, I guess it's up to them. If they don't want reform there, they get to make that decision. But if I were choosing a university, I wouldn't choose them because of this. I wouldn't choose Bangor. I'd think, no, I want to go somewhere where I can listen to everything and make up my own mind.
Yeah, I mean, the University of Bangor, they did come out with a statement that was quite strong and said we support free speech. But the funding goes from the University of Bangor, then it goes to the Student Union, and then that gets fed to the Debating Society. If they're paying money for a debating society that won't actually encourage debate, then what's its purpose?
Well, absolutely. Yeah, it's not...
I don't know why I said that. No, I just wanted you to say yes.
It's like a tennis club that you can just play up against the wall.
That was the classic where I posed a question which wasn't a question.
You tell us the opinion.
That was funny. And then I missed your joke, Aideen. I'm so sorry.
No, my timing is off. Sorry, I'm too much in Ireland. Yeah, it's like a tennis club where you can just play tennis against the wall. with one arm.
It was why did I ever cut that off? It was brilliant. Right, a spokesman for the University of Bangor said the views expressed by societies are their own and do not reflect university policy. Bangor University remains politically neutral and supports freedom of speech. Our next question is from Jeff.
Hi, Josh.
Hi.
Should Cambridge, I assume Cambridge University, reward slavery?
Yes, should Cambridge reward slavery? Cambridge University has transferred 116 Benin bronzes to Nigerian authorities. The artefacts were taken from Benin City in 1897. Some pieces remain on loan in the UK before full repatriation. The reason why that question, I guess, is asked is because some of these will end up going to the descendants of the tribe which actually dealt in slavery.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, like reparations, how far back do you want to take it? You know, David Lammy rants and raves about, you know, reparations to his forefathers. You know, should we stop going to Rome and looking at the Colosseum because it was built by slaves? How far back do you go?
30 years. I mean, Cressida, there's also, because the bronze that these masks were made out of, they were made out of the currency that was sort of taken from dealing in slaves. So these are not sort of pure objects of history.
No,
they're tainted.
Layers. But everything's tainted, isn't it? I agree. How far back do you go? I think that's the question. Because in the same way, I mean, on the one hand, it's a bit of a fun gotcha, isn't it? Ah, look what you've done. You're supposed to be woke and you're not. But on the other hand, I think, no, draw a line under this. You know. And also, my favourite phrase, put a plaque on it. I'm always saying that. Put a plaque on it, explaining all of the nuances and what happened. People can learn about it.
There we go, learn about it. And the other thing which was a bit crazy reading this article, did you see how actually they kind of sent these back? There was a case to stop sending them back, and then Cambridge University supposedly just sent them back anyway and said, oh, sorry, we didn't get that email.
Yeah, well, they originally wanted to give it to the Nigerian government, and then the Nigerian government said, listen, we don't really want them, but these lads do. So something dodgy happened there. Right? Something dodgy happened. In the ideal world, they would be sold to a philanthropist, an American philanthropist, who would put them on display and donate the money to modern slave trade. Okay, so we don't really know what to do with this stuff. And they were in the basement anyway. No one was looking at them. They were stuck beside somebody's old false teeth or something. You know, they weren't being on display anyway. So Cambridge probably thought they'd get away with this.
Fair enough. Yeah, probably also where my hair used to be.
Yeah.
Right. Our next question's from Chris.
Is the jig up?
Is the jig up? Irish dance governing bodies are under fire after a transgender dancer who previously competed as male qualified for the Female World Championship competition for the third year running. A women's advocacy group says the system undermines fairness and calls for sex-based eligibility rules. The organisations have not publicly responded to the criticism. So, Aideen, don't want to be racist, go for it. Exactly. And the thing is that the argument goes, Cressida, that men would be able to do that a lot better. I think we have definitively proven how unfair this is.
Yeah.
I mean, is this?
Oh, it's just like Michael Flatley himself, the feat of flames. As in, it's burnt into my mind for the rest of my life, and I can never forget it. So this is very interesting, and I had to talk to a friend of mine who was in the World Championship. He's very high up in the dance world, because dance is not quite a sport, it's more an art. And actually, despite what that article says, women are way, way better. In general, there's certain dances that only female dancers do that male dancers don't, like the slip jig. And if this
my
person...
favourite dance.
Yeah, that's what you did there. But if a male dance, if somebody assigned male at birth wanted to have advantage, they'd have much more advantage in the male categories where male dancers are prized. They get more jobs easily in things like river dance, Lord of the Dance. So there's something else going on here that's not just about them winning. Now, a lot
Maybe he's dancing with 3 legs.
Maybe. But so I don't really know. Then there's another thing about Irish dance, which is there's a lot of pageantry involved. Like the girls at very young age, they put on a fake tan, they have wigs. The dresses are really a big deal about it as well. It's almost like the the beauty contests that children have to do in America. There's a bit of that energy there. So I don't really know why this is controversial or what it's about, but it is different than the normal thing with sport where somebody assigned male at birth has a big advantage.
Well, that's interesting because I read it. You're shaking your head because I'd read an article that longer legs. That's an advantage.
Well, that did occur. I did think, might this person stand out a bit? Given that they usually all look so uniform, isn't that the point? They're all supposed to look the same. And I thought, well, good luck if you're 6'2". But my concern is where they put the wigs on. Isn't there? There must be changing rooms involved in this sport.
Oh yeah.
I don't. And we've decided, haven't we? We're not having this anymore. We're not having men competing in women's sports. And I don't want that to happen.
And there are biological women who have lost their. I hate even saying biological women. There are women who have lost their spaces in the World Championships who cannot compete now because of this. All right, well, look, let's go for one final very quick question from Sean.
OK, it's got a bit of a change of pace here. Should questions about Bond being black be banned?
Yes, exactly. Former Bond girl Miriam Dabo said James Bond should remain a white man. So this is just an article that seems to come out every week, Cressida. And I would like it to stop.
It's usually about James Bond being a man, isn't it? And
I think that sometimes it's both. It could be a man. Should he be black? And then it just feels like all they ever do is go, oh, we don't have a story. Let's ask an ex-Bond person.
Yes. What flavour Bond can we have next? I'm very open to colourblind casting on this, but I'm not open to him being a her. I think James Bond is necessarily male. I think that's the nature of the character. But if they'd had Idris Elba or whoever, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
OK, yeah, so getting some claps at the back there, very big fans. Do you have a particular feeling about this?
I think...
Or just do another dance if you want.
It's just... Well, this is like my job in the strip club. I don't have a problem with him being black at all, but I think it's unrealistic that James Bond is always so handsome. Like, you really look twice at him, like Spy. He's very noticeable. I am campaigning for an ugly James Bond. Until we have an Irish ugly Seamus Bond, and until we get somebody who looks like Lewis Capaldi sneaking around going unnoticed, I won't be happy.
OK, here we go. Let's give it... What's it? Here we go. The name's Bond. James Bond. Right, next on Free Speech Nation, we have an exclusive on Free Speech Nation, which may help answer why many people feel that the Crown Prosecution Service is failing Jews. See you in 2 minutes.
Yay.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading to Europe this half term, well, it's a mixed bag out there. Outbreaks of rain and some heavy showers and thunderstorms. Best of the sunshine, though, really confined to the Canary Islands and towards the south of Spain. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain across Portugal and northern Spain. Across the Mediterranean, that's where we're going to see areas of showers and thunderstorms pushing their way through. Otherwise, best of the sunshine really across the Canary Islands, highs of 25.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we end the weekend and start the new week, there's going to be plenty of blustery showers around and some of them will turn wintry once again across the northern parts of Scotland. That high pressure that we saw on Saturday has now moved off towards the continent and we again see this low pressure in charge. But that persistent rain that we saw this afternoon is pushing off towards the North Sea, leaving many of these showers around through this evening and through the overnight period. There will be some breaks in that cloud, especially towards southeastern England, but it should remain a relatively frost-free night, even if you do get some breaks in that cloud through the early hours. But towards the eastern parts of Scotland, around Aberdeenshire, the more prolonged breaks in that cloud will allow those temperatures to dip below freezing, so we could see a frost first thing on Monday morning. But for the rest of the UK, especially across the south, it will be a mostly dry start in between these showers. A few breaks, so we'll see some sunnier spells first thing. But further north, there is a lot more in the way of cloud, especially northern England and Northern Ireland. But again, eastern Scotland seeing some nice sunny spells. They've not seen a lot of this for much of February so far, but there is a band of these showers across the north which could turn wintry along those higher hills through the morning and into the afternoon. Now that feeder showers do continue into the afternoon, coming in this northeasterly wind, and they can be blustery at times. If you are caught in one of those heavier showers, you'll notice those winds pick up. But in between those showers, there will be some sunnier spells, especially across the south, the northeast, and again towards the northern parts of Scotland. Temperatures wise, around or just above the seasonal average, around 7 or 10 degrees further towards the south. Now as I head through Monday evening, you'll see those wintry showers coming in towards northern Scotland, which is drawing in some colder air as well. But as we look through the week, Tuesday's looking like a pretty sunny day at the moment, but as we go through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, temperatures are dipping around those mid-single figures.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Is the CPS failing Britain's Jews? We have received exclusive information from a former police officer. According to the information given, the Metropolitan Police have concluded that a placard depicting Israel as committing genocide is not unlawful, despite objections from a Jewish man who reported it. This placard may cause some offence to some viewers. There he is. So this is someone standing there in a T-shirt saying plasticine action, obviously that's it. But the placard says, stop the genocide, with a Star of David in it, basically saying that Jews, Star of David, are causing a genocide, which is not true. Now, a Met officer said the Crown Prosecution Service, which reviewed the case, confirmed that the placard showing the Palestinian flag and blue Stars of David is a protest against the actions of Israeli state, not a racial or religious attack, as the victim has called it. I should say, one of the things they said in this email is about the Star of David being blue and how that's only associated with Israel. Anybody who actually knows anything about Judaism knows that's not, in fact, the case. And anyway, as a result, the police have closed the report with no further action taken. Now, the bit that is particularly disturbing is the CPS, they haven't confirmed this, by the way, so this could be that this former police officer, it could be that this is fake. It could be that the Met officer who sent this email to him, there could be some problems there. But this is what it does say in this email as we understand it. It says that the genocide in Israel has been proven, that it is proven that Israel has been committing a genocide. Now, that is a CPS lawyer who is stating that. I am now joined by Stephen Silverman, who works for the Campaign Against Antisemitism. When I heard this, Stephen, it instantly stood out to me because, of course, it's not proven that Israel committed a genocide. And more than that, this is arguably an anti-Semitic blood libel slander against Israel and Jews.
Well, one of the features of the last couple of years and the discourse around the war is that bad faith actors have encouraged others to elevate their feelings about it into facts. And this appears to be what's happened here, if it indeed is accurate. But the thing is, this each day brings yet another example of an institution that is meant to protect everybody becoming ideologically captured. And the interesting thing in this case with the CPS is it's nothing new. The events of the last 2 years may have accelerated it and shone a harsh spotlight on it. But even 10 years ago, we were having very, very similar problems with the CPS. So I've been doing this work with Campaign Against Anti-Semitism now for over 10 years. And one of the first things I encountered was a Jeremy Corbyn supporter who tweeted, as it was at the time, that he would be happy if all Jews died today. Would he do anything himself? No, but he would applaud. And then we had a look at his Twitter feed, and it was full of similar inciting filth. Now, he was charged with inciting racial hatred, but when it got to court, the CPS discontinued it before he even had a chance to enter a plea. And the reason they gave, and I still have the letter today, was that he said he was only trying to start a debate and that there was no evidence that he actually managed to incite anybody. Now, coming from a CPS lawyer, that's shocking because the law of incitement doesn't require you to succeed. It just requires you to make the attempt.
And it should be said that in America, it's that there is incitement, but also that this actually does result in violence. But we're not talking about being a free speech absolutist. Let's just talk about the law as it stands in the UK and the fair application of it.
Yeah, and indeed. And, you know, we have the law and it should be applied equally to everybody. Around the same time, there's an even more interesting case where the CPS absolutely disgraced themselves, and it concerned someone, and I can name this guy because he actually went to prison, a guy called Jeremy Bedford-Turner, who was a far-right activist who wanted to hold an anti-Jewification march through Golders Green, and Campaign Against Anti-Semitism persuaded the police to get him to move it to Whitehall, where they could more easily contain the event. And he gave a speech in which he went on a merry romp through 2,000 years of anti-Semitic libel. But he concluded it by asking his soldiers to take action against Jewish influence, and that's clear incitement. Our CEO was there, he witnessed it, and he made a complaint to the police. The police came back and said that the CPS were not going to prosecute it, and our CEO said, in that case, I want my victim's right to review. The victim's right to review scheme allows members of the public to challenge decisions such as this. And they came back and said, no, you can't have your victim's right to review. And the reason you can't have it is because Bedford-Turner's comments were directed at all Jews. You are not all Jews, which is just insane. So we applied for a judicial review. It was granted. It was taken very seriously. And the CPS didn't even bother turning up to the hearing. They knew they didn't stand a chance. They conceded. He was put on trial. He was convicted of inciting racial hatred. And he was sentenced to 12 months in prison. Now, that set the baseline for what we have come to expect from the Crown Prosecution Service. We have a whole dossier this thick on cases that, had it been other minorities that were involved, there would have been prosecutions, you can guarantee it. So there is something deeply wrong at the CPS when it comes to defending the Jewish community. We don't know why, but it's there.
So the thing is that, by the way, I should say, the CPS have also successfully prosecuted some cases. There was a case this week, 2 Muslim men who sought to kill as many Jews as possible. I believe that's their words. The CPS did successfully pursue that case. They are now going to jail. Thank you very much, CPS. And there's no suggestion that this is official CPS policy that Israel has committed a genocide. But when CPS lawyers are using that language, that they are stating as a fact that Israel is committing a genocide, it would certainly indicate some kind of institutional capture. Is this just this one person who believes this? To use that in a case and as a reason to not prosecute incitement towards Jews, that's a real issue. And when we see what's happening now, I believe that this week there was CST revealed there are 300 incidents every month of Jew hate. So, and you had Sir Michael Ellis, I believe he also gave a talk this week. He was talking about the CPS needing reform. Are you finding that many Jews are just feeling deeply suspicious of the CPS, that there should be some reform, there needs to be some examination of how it makes these decisions?
The Jewish community has absolutely no faith in the CPS to protect them whatsoever. But it's important for another reason, because one of the ways in which this toxic alliance of the radical left and Islamist extremists have been able to persuade otherwise decent, well-meaning people that Israel is committing genocide is because institutions in which most people have trust, and because they don't look that deeply, everyone from, NGOs like Amnesty, the UN, academics,
we saw Oxfam this week. They were talking. The former head of Oxfam was saying how,
and of course the Crown Prosecution Service. And you actually, when you have these people saying these things, why wouldn't people believe it? And to deal with it, you have to explain why these institutions have become compromised. And the danger is that you end up looking like a crazed conspiracy theorist yourself. So it's a very, very big problem. And there is no sign of it being dealt with at any level.
Yeah, I mean, there's no idea about what kind of reform is necessary. I believe one thing that has been suggested is that at least they can do is actually classify these as anti-Semitic cases. There's nothing actually, presently they're just put as sort of religious cases or religious hate. There's no sort of statistics from within the CPS about anti-Semitism specifically or Jew hate.
No, for as long as I can remember with the campaign against anti-Semitism, we have been asking them to do precisely that. We have asked government to get them to do precisely that, and they don't. And apparently it's because there's a computer that can't be reprogrammed, according to the report that I read earlier.
I'm sure they can put a bunch of genders on that computer program.
Quite possibly, yes.
Yeah.
Very likely.
OK. Well, look, thank you very much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause, please, for Stephen Silverman. We have reached out to the CPS. We are waiting for a comment, and the CPS would say they treat anti-Semitic incidents as hate crimes, use specialist prosecutors, sentence uplifts and terrorism laws where needed, while engaging with groups like the CST and Jewish community representatives and advising on public order to curb anti-Semitic offences. Next, we are going to be talking to Fiona McAnena. The High Court has ruled that employers can legally ban transgender women from using female toilets. Also, we have an investigation into the connections between those who are creating the definition of Islamophobia and extremism. You do not want to miss that. See you in a couple of minutes.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. We're going to get some more questions from our audience. Our first question is from Adik.
Hello, Josh. My question is not to confuse with my name. Should heroin addicts be more inclusive?
Should heroin addicts be more inclusive? The Green Party plans an internal vote on the motion to legalise heroin and other drugs as part of the efforts to make society more inclusive. Yippee! This is exciting. You're on heroin, aren't you, Adik?
Not today.
Not today. Very good. Hands up if you're on heroin. Are we allowed? Yeah, beep, yeah. That's how we get such a big audience.
Just keep coming back. This is odd, isn't it?
You're going to vote Green? Is this why you're wearing green?
I will not be voting Green. I don't think you should ask us who we're going to vote for, but it won't be Zach Polanski, I can tell you that.
OK, fair enough. I mean, this is legalising heroin. Is that a vote winner? Is it inclusive? I mean, I've got a crackhead who lives just below in the flat below me, but I'll tell him about it.
Yeah, because I think I would wager that heroin users are amongst the very lowest of the voting people in society.
Yeah, he's wasting his time.
He's wasting his time. Yeah, they're not going to
start... Right. Who's that going to appeal to? Yeah.
It's a bad market, but it's because they're in opposition and they're unlikely to get in unless it's some coalition government with Labour and the Lib Dems next time. They can say what they want. They could say that they could give horses the vote. You know, it doesn't really matter.
Talking about ketamine.
It doesn't really matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, our next question is from Roger.
Hello. Are Canadians more scared of hate crimes or murder?
Yeah, Canadians more scared of hate crimes or murder. A school shooting in Tumbler Ridge, British Columbia, left 9 dead, 25 injured. Authorities initially misgendered the shooter, citing political correctness over accuracy. Canadians questioned why facts were delayed amid a national tragedy. Now, this was very sad this week, but also very concerning that the police, whilst it was going out, put out a report saying that the shooter was a woman in a dress. Now, that is not true.
Well, it's not telling the whole story, is it?
It's not telling any of the story.
I mean, that's the police, and that's poor. But I think also, once the facts are out, the journalists have got a duty to uncover this, right, and tell the story properly, because it sounds like this person's mental health was quite complicated and there were drugs floating around and one thing and another, and we need to know what was going on.
But I would argue that if you're trying to escape a gun person, as they put it,
right,
surely you should know the sex of the person you're trying to escape. It's OK to go...
A very immediate need to know who you're running away from, yes.
Yeah, it's great. Well, I mean, I don't know if you saw that Sky, I shouldn't really talk about competitors, another channel, put out a report saying that this was a woman, and it's very unusual that women commit mass murder.
Yeah, I was delighted. Finally, we're breaking the glass floor. Yay, women. Soon we'll have 50% of people in prisons be women, I hope. But well, it's interesting the details that they do give and what they think is important. Like, I think that we should just know the star sign. That's all I'm interested in of a criminal. And did you know that the vast majority of people who went to Epstein's Island were Leos? So think about that, guys.
Wow, that's way to take that particular story. Okay. Well, look, our next question is from Anton. I know a lot of people at home are waiting to see his appearance.
Are students liars?
You noticed today, by the way, Anton, I gave you a question that was 3 words long. You did it wonderfully. A survey of nearly 1,500 students at prominent US universities found 88% admitted to pretending to hold more progressive views than they truly believe to succeed socially or academically. According to Gary's list, most respondents also said they hide disagreements on topics like gender identity to avoid conflict. Also, most concerningly, Cressida, they actually write opinions in essays that they don't believe.
Yeah, and I'm not remotely surprised. I mean, what I am surprised about is that this is to please their tutors, because I can understand people doing this. I mean, obviously, how does anybody get through dating apps in London if you're not prepared to lie and say that you think Zach Polanski's fantastic? But
let's take heroin together.
Exactly. But in this case, we're talking about this is going to academics. This is the people who are supposed to be able to teach you about critical thought. That's the outrageous bit.
Yeah. Well, look, last question very quickly from William.
Hi, Josh.
Hello.
Should Peppa Pig fans be allowed sausage rolls?
Yes, should Peppa Pig fans be allowed sausage rolls? Grimsby Theatre removes sausage rolls and pork during Peppa Pig shows. Peter praised the change, offering vegan alternatives. So, what do you... I mean, it's cannibalism, isn't it?
It's cannibalism, that's all it is. It's a disgrace. And if, you know, if Peppa is there watching herself be eaten, she can't play the part properly.
Yes.
I'd agree with this wholeheartedly.
You think this is a good step?
I think it's a great step, yeah, and hopefully it'll extend on to a kind of Ramadan for all. So I'd be really happy about it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people have sort of said, oh, this is woke, go broke. But it is a little bit insensitive, some dad sort of chomping away on a sausage roll.
I think it could be the beginning of a child asking probing questions, couldn't it? That could lead into a big, maybe an important conversation. I don't know.
Oh, indeed. Well, look, that's the end of the first hour on Free Speech Nation. Don't go away. Plenty more to come between now and 9 o'clock. Honestly, you do not want to miss it. See you in a couple of minutes.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. As we end the weekend and start the new week, there's going to be plenty of blustery showers around and some of them will turn wintry once again across the northern parts of Scotland. That high pressure that we saw on Saturday has now moved off towards the continent and we again see this low pressure in charge, but that persistent rain that we saw this afternoon is pushing off towards the North Sea, leaving many of these showers around through this evening and through the overnight period. There will be some breaks in that cloud, especially towards southeastern England, but it should remain a relatively frost-free night, even if you do get some breaks in that cloud through the early hours. But towards the eastern parts of Scotland, around Aberdeenshire, the more prolonged breaks in that cloud will allow those temperatures to dip below freezing, so we could see a frost first thing on Monday morning. But for the rest of the UK, especially across the south, it will be a mostly dry start in between these showers. A few breaks, so we'll see some sunnier spells first thing. But further north, there is a lot more in the way of cloud, especially northern England and Northern Ireland. But again, eastern Scotland seeing some nice sunny spells. They've not seen a lot of this for much of February so far, but there is a band of these showers across the north which could turn wintry along those higher hills through the morning and into the afternoon. Now that feeder showers do continue into the afternoon, coming in this northeasterly wind, and it can be blustery at times. If you are caught in one of those heavier showers, you'll notice those winds pick up. But in between those showers, there will be some sunnier spells, especially across the south, the northeast, and again towards the northern parts of Scotland. Temperatures-wise, around or just above the seasonal average, around 7 or 10 degrees further towards the south. Now, as I head through Monday evening, you'll see those wintry showers coming in towards northern Scotland, which is drawing in some colder air as well. But as we look through the week, Tuesday's looking like a pretty sunny day at the moment. But as we go through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, temperatures are dipping around those mid-single figures.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's only 2 weeks remaining to see how you could win a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash. Plus, we could be sorting out your summer with an incredible holiday for two worth £10,000, courtesy of Riviera Travel. You'll get to choose from 47 tours in over 30 worldwide destinations. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
There is plenty more still to come on Free Speech Nation this week, including the silence over the murder of Christians in Nigeria. But first, we're going to get a news update from Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks very much indeed, Josh. Good evening to you. Our headlines from the GB newsroom. The Foreign Secretary has called for strong action after finding the Kremlin killed the political prisoner Alexei Navalny with frog poison. The UK and 4 allies say their analysis shows Moscow was responsible for the death of the opposition leader in a penal colony 2 years ago. The Kremlin maintains he died of natural causes and dismissed the findings as a Western propaganda hoax. Ms Cooper was speaking at the Munich Security Conference, where she and the Prime Minister have urged European allies to stand up against the threat posed by Russia.
Only the Russian government had the means, the motive and the opportunity to use that toxin against Alexei Navalny in prison.
Well, the tests were carried out by laboratories in 5 European countries using samples from Navalny's body that were smuggled out of Russia. Yvette Cooper's US counterpart Marco Rubio, who's also in Munich, has described the findings as troubling.
We obviously are aware of the report. It's a troubling report. We're aware of that case of Mr. Navalny, and certainly it's, you know, we don't have any reason to question it, or we're not disputing or getting into a fight with these countries over it, but it was their report and they put that out there.
The Prime Minister is facing calls for an inquiry into a Labour think tank's investigation of journalists. The Sunday Times says Labour Together, the group that helped make Sir Keir leader, hired lobbyists to investigate the personal, political and religious backgrounds of reporters behind a story about secret donations that fund the think tank's work. It's reported the group paid £36,000 to a US lobbying firm in an effort to discredit the newspaper by falsely suggesting its reporters had links to Russia. Reform UK's head of policy, Zia Youssef, has refused to rule out a right-wing coalition. His comments come amid claims the right could be divided following the launch of Rupert Lowe's new party, Restore Britain. While speaking to GB News, Mr Youssef said Reform would have to do the patriotic thing in a worst-case scenario, but the prospect of teaming up and doing deals would be a big if. The former Liberal Democrat leader Vince Cable says the police should investigate Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor over claims he leaked confidential information to the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. It's reported the former prince passed on details about a £45 billion government bailout of Royal Bank of Scotland, details he learned in his role as a trade envoy. Sir Vince, who was business secretary at the time, reacted to the allegations in the Mail on Sunday, saying Andrew had displayed dreadful, cynical behaviour. Mr Mountbatten-Windsor has denied any wrongdoing. Hundreds of people have been protesting against government plans to build a brand new town near the village of Adlington in Cheshire. More than 20,000 new homes are set to be built on Greenbelt land. The demonstration, including a fleet of milk floats, a parade of tractors, and even a life-size model cow. It is to be the last protest, though, for some time, as organisers look to other ways of raising awareness. And more good news, as Team GB have made history by winning 2 Winter Olympic titles on one day for the first time. Charlotte Banks and Hugh Nightingale won the mixed team snowboard cross. A little earlier, that was GB's first ever Olympic title on snow. And a short time ago, Matt Weston and Tabitha Stocker have clinched mixed team skeleton gold, the first time Great Britain have won 3 gold medals at a single Winter Games. Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 9.
Okay, I see. Welcome back to Free Speech Nation. Let's have a round of applause. I love a round of applause. So, the Free Speech Union has been cataloguing the various groups who have been consulted in regards to the upcoming government-recognised definition of Islamophobia, some of whom stand accused of harbouring extremist views. Parliament abolished blasphemy laws in England and Wales 18 years ago. But is one now being brought back through the front door? High-profile cases, such as Hamit Koskan burning a Quran outside the Turkish embassy, have brought these free speech issues into sharper focus. Well, free speech activists and liberal Muslims who have voiced their concern of the impending legal definition now have a powerful ally. The brain behind the religious satire Life of Brian, John Cleese, has recently advocated for a new word, Islamo-skeptic, saying there is no phobia involved in criticising a religion. That is for spiders. Joining me to discuss these pressing issues is the Director of Policy and Research for the Free Speech Union, David Rose. David, welcome to the show. Let's have a round of applause. David, you have led an investigation that is quite disturbing because the panel of people, this is my understanding of it, who are responsible for creating this definition of Islamophobia or anti-Muslim hatred themselves have connections to extremists, is that right?
Broadly speaking, yes. What happened was in February of last year, the then Community Secretary, Angela Rayner, set up a working group of 5 people to produce a definition of what was termed Islamophobia / anti-Muslim hate crime. And of the 5 members, 4 are Muslim, 1 is not a Muslim, Dominic Grieve, KC, the former Conservative Attorney General. But it turns out that certainly all but one of them have expressed strong support for the need for such a definition in the past. We at the Free Speech Union are quite clear that we don't need such a definition. We have perfectly good laws that rightly outlaw anti-Muslim discrimination or hate crime. We do not need a definition of Islamophobia. But more disturbingly, while there are lots of Muslims who, as you say, don't agree with the idea of a definition, these particular ones and Dominic Grieve do seem to have close connections to organisations and individuals who have expressed outright Islamist views and in some cases support for terrorist violence.
Obviously, that's very concerning, and I read this report, and it's quite detailed. It goes into these quite specific connections. Do you think it's if everybody on that panel has these connections, are we going to get another definition that reads something like criticising any level of Muslimness is racist, which is what the 2018 definition had?
There was a definition produced in 2018 by the All-Party Parliamentary Group on British Muslims. Now, it's quite interesting to note, by the way, that the co-chair of that group, who led the inquiry that produced that definition, was none other than Wes Streeting, who, of course, is now seen as a potential successor to the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. But yes, that definition was never officially adopted by the government, although a number of political parties, including the Labour Party under Jeremy Corbyn, did adopt it. And yes, it said that it was that Islamophobia was a kind of racism rooted in hatred of Islam, or expressions, as you say, of Muslimness, whatever that quite means. Now, lots of pushback came in the wake of that definition. And I think the crucial pushback came from feminist and liberal Muslims themselves. People such as Pragna Patel, who was the founder and for many years director at the Southall Black Sisters organisation. She's now the director of a black and minority ethnic feminist organisation called Project Resistance. And she said that this definition, if it was widely adopted, if it was, especially if it was adopted by national or local government, would strengthen the hands of religious conservatives, people who wanted to clamp down on criticism of Islam, because that would then be seen as an expression of racism. Now, those concerns have been completely ignored because those voices are just not represented on the working group that Angela Rayner set up last year. But instead, very conservative organisations who have rightly been shunned by successive governments because of their links with extremism do have connections to these individuals. And so the fear must be that even if those individuals themselves don't share views in support of terrorist violence, for example, then nevertheless they are not performing the kind of disengagement which the government officially has with those organisations. What they're actually doing is acting as a kind of bridge between those with authoritarian extremist views and the government. And so it's, you know, these organisations, such as the Muslim Council of Britain and then MEND, Muslim Engagement and Development, as it's called, they've long expressed a very strong demand for an official Islamophobia definition. This could be the arrival, maybe not of blasphemy laws by the front door, but certainly by the back.
Yeah, I mean, on top of that, when you have something like this week, the people calling out the religious element to the grooming gangs, wouldn't that then also potentially be perceived as being racist? If you were talking about this, that's where we're going, isn't it?
Well, the working group, some of them have absolutely said exactly that it is Islamophobic and therefore racist, even to discuss whether or not it is true that there is a disproportionate number of members of grooming gangs with a Pakistani or Bangladeshi heritage and an Islamic faith. So, for example, we take some of those members, Shaista Gohir, Baroness Shaista Gohir, who is has a record of standing up for women's rights in the Muslim community. She supports victims of domestic violence and misogyny, so great, fair play to that. But at the same time, she wrote a report in 2013 for her organisation, the Women's Muslim Network, which explicitly says that any discussion of the ethnic background or religious background of the grooming gangs is in itself Islamophobic. And she said that it is being used by the far right, and therefore it should should not be, on the table, on the agenda for discussion. Now, there are certainly many who hold the view that those kinds of opinions are what has led to the situation in which the grooming gangs have, I don't know if flourished is the right word, but where, society has not taken the action that is required to stop them. But other members of the group have taken the same view. Akila Ahmed. Now, Akila Ahmed is an interesting case because she's been around sort of official circles, Whitehall and so on, for many years. She too has expressed very strongly the view that it is racist and Islamophobic to discuss this issue. So this has to be a concern that those kinds of problems cannot be framed in this way at all if this definition is widely accepted. Of course, we don't actually know what the definition will be yet. They haven't published it. We at the Free Speech Union have tried to submit freedom of information requests. So we have sort of leaks that have emerged, but we don't know officially what it will be. And there's also, by the way, a strong suggestion that the government is going to delay publication of whatever it is they have come up with until after the Gorton by-election, because they fear that it might lead to a backlash of non-Muslim voters.
It was a fantastic bit of journalism, and anybody at home should seek it out. I believe it's through the Free Speech Union website. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause to the Director of Policy and Research for the Free Speech Union, David Rose. Thank you very much for joining us. GB News has reached out to many of the people mentioned for comment. Next on Free Speech Nation, there is the slaughter of Christians in Nigeria, and yet so many people, so many media organisations don't report on it, don't seem to care. We are going to talk to a journalist who has been there and seen what is going on with his own eyes. See you in 2 minutes.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
The trouble is, I get so busy when the Winter Olympics come round, and I'm so busy travelling everywhere and doing interviews that I don't actually get a chance to watch the Olympics myself. But I do catch a little bit here and there. But it's nice to know we're doing, pretty well so far.
The big air, because I mentioned that. I kind of thinking that maybe if that had been an Olympic sport back in '88, that may well have suited you even better because you were a skier and then got into ski jump. And I'm thinking of the tricks, and that's how you started doing all that stuff.
That's right. At Gloucester Ski Centre, I was using the bumps on the natural profile of the hill and doing lots of tricks and jumping over people and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, big air could have been a sport for me, or ski cross, where you got your racing because you're going down a racetrack type thing and going off these jumps as well. So there's plenty of more modern sports that I think would have suited me better than ski jumping 38 years ago. But I'm still glad I did my ski jumping all those years ago.
Eamon, how much of a hero do you think Eddie Edwards is?
Well, at the start, Eddie, I thought, what's this guy doing here? What a waste of time, whatever. And then I realised how hard you fought. The big changing point, I think, for you, Eddie, was the film. People seeing your life and how it came about and the real story. And I think that got everybody at your side. And certainly, from my point of view, you gained my total respect.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I was amazed when Readly, the magazine and newspaper app, got in touch with me last week and said, even though you took part 38 years ago, you're in the top 3 most memorable Winter Olympic moments, which is really nice.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Washington has stepped up pressure on Nigeria after Trump accused the West African nation of failing to protect Christians from Islamist militants in the northwest. Nigeria rejects allegations of religious persecution, saying its security forces target armed groups that attack both Christians and Muslims. I am now joined by the special correspondent for the Daily Mail, David Patrick Arakos. David, welcome to the show.
Delighted to be here.
Nigeria and seen with your own eyes what is happening and how Christians are being murdered. Can you please tell our audience about what you saw?
Well, Josh, it was quite an intense experience. Let me be very clear. To get to some of the most affected areas, we were forced to take an armed guard, an armed escort. A truck with a heavy machine gun accompanied us to one particular village where 2 years ago, a Muslim Fulani herdsman had stormed into the place, killed people, ethnically cleansed the village. And actually some of the people, some Christians, came back with us that day because they had the cover of that heavy machine gun, and they're going back to the houses that they'd been driven out of for the very first time. One chap, his father had been killed in front of his eyes, and it was the same story. They're sleeping, suddenly they hear screams, chants of Allahu Akbar. They hear the scream Anna, which means infidels in the local language, and then they are descended upon, they are ethnically cleansed, they are driven out, they are murdered. And nobody really beyond Donald Trump and a few voices in the West seems to care. It's an absolutely heartbreaking situation, Josh.
I believe it's about 60,000 people who've been murdered over the last 20 years. Why do you think this hasn't been properly reported, properly focused upon?
Well, Josh, I think if some of those Fulani herdsmen donned IDF uniforms, we'd hear more of an outcry. I think we're talking about the wrong kind of victim and the wrong kind of perpetrator. You know, it is astonishing to me, yet totally unsurprising, that the UN is not all over this. This is an absolute outrage. It's been going on for decades. And as I say, it's just simply a matter of the wrong victim and perpetrator. If this was Israelis doing this, if this was Jews doing it, that the sinister and awful Francesca Albanese would be oiling up her broom and flying over to Nigeria as we speak. I'm afraid it really is that simple. And again, it's incredibly depressing, and it's an indictment on our media, frankly.
Because Christian advocacy group Open Doors, they reported that the vast majority of Christians killed for their faith globally. This is exactly where it's happening. This is where you went and you saw with your own eyes. I believe you saw churches burnt down.
One point, we drove through, as I say, when we got the armed escort, we were able to go through these areas that had been totally burnt, totally destroyed by the Muslim Fulani herdsmen that you couldn't otherwise access. And at certain points, it was like driving through Armageddon. Please understand, we're talking about miles of scorched crops, houses destroyed, and pretty much every church that you see destroyed. Now, you know, the Nigerian government will say, oh, this isn't about religion, it's about grazing rights, it's about land. And, you know, all of those things are involved. But, you know, as a journalist, you put this to the local people and you say, well, you know, we are told it's about, you know, more than this. And they say, well, then why do they destroy our churches every time? They go for our churches, they go to kill our holy men. I was told of one story of a pastor and his family being burnt alive in a church. This is hideous. And let's not forget, one of the biggest massacres, Josh, and this takes place in the Nigerian Plateau State, and this is it's the fault line, Josh, because it's where the predominantly Muslim north meets the overwhelmingly Christian south. So this is ground zero for this stuff. And in 2024, you had the so-called Christmas Day massacres, in which the Muslim Fulani herdsmen descended simultaneously on several villages, and the timing was not accidental. Whenever you put it to them, when you say, look, the government is saying this and that, and they come back with you, well, fine. Why do they destroy our churches? Fine. Why do they attack on Christmas Day? Why do they say to us, don't build any more churches because one day they'll all be turned into mosques? The answer is obvious. Yes, there are many problems in Nigeria, but what we have here is a key sectarian conflict that is stoked by violent and militant Islam.
Talking to you now, I'm actually, and the kind of silence that surrounds this issue, I'm thinking also of what we're seeing in the Islamic Republic of Iran, where in the regime there, where you've seen also over days, tens of thousands of people reportedly murdered, and yet very much seemingly silent. Certainly as it was carried out, a few nominal reports since then. Is it, again, do you think, a case of just like, oh, these aren't the right victims, these aren't the right perpetrators?
Absolutely. Look, if there was any sense of fairness, of justice, of moral calculus amongst the people that flooded Britain's streets for 2 years after the atrocities of October 7th, they'd be out in the streets constantly. And it's about the wrong victim, yes, and about the wrong perpetrator. But there's something else, Josh, that we have to understand, is that there is a large section of Western society, unfortunately, that sees any regime, no matter how barbaric, no matter how vicious, no matter that it's run by a bunch of senile sadists like Iran, as long as they're seen as in opposition to the West, specifically to America, Britain and Israel, they're seen as de facto good. This is the level of stupidity, the level of utter moral abdication that we're dealing with. It's absolutely the case. Look, Iran is not something you can say, oh, Nigeria is a bit distant to us. Iran is constantly in the news. And let me tell you something else. We refuse to ban the IRGC in this country, the Revolutionary Guard. I did a big piece, Josh, an investigative piece on the Islamic Republic of Iran's government institutions in London. We're talking about the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei's de facto London office, which got COVID money, which got furlough money during COVID. This is absolutely insane. The definition of insanity. People that chant every day for our death and destruction, we're giving them cash in COVID. It's completely nuts, and it has to change. And the problem is this. Our mainstream media is losing credibility, and it's something that we try to fight back against at the Mail. And our institutions and politicians are losing credibility, and that is very bad. We suffer twice in our abdication of responsibility here.
There was a report, and it's going to seem very much partial me bringing this up, but the BBC put a report out this week from Iran where the journalist was basically saying that, oh, it was the 47-year anniversary, and it was like, oh, look at people out on the streets, and this is a holiday, and, oh, the recent disturbances were because of economic reasons. And you can appreciate that this journalist is operating is obviously being watched whilst they're doing a report, but it frankly came across as a viewer as whitewashing, as a mouthpiece for this evil regime.
100%. And the journalist in question is someone that I know, and I believe them to be fundamentally quite moral and decent. But this is a classic example of you exchange access for this kind of nonsense, and it's better that you don't go. It's better that you don't go to Iran, that you go on the condition that you whitewash this kind of brutality. That journalist must have known what they were saying was nonsense. You can't go to Iran right now, go out into the streets and say, look, everybody's happy and celebrating. It is actually an obscenity to do that, and I'm very disappointed that it was done. And yet again, it's just another blow for the BBC's credibility, and it has a long history. It's done some great stuff in its history. There's no need for this. I want to know, who was the editor that said, yes, let's go and do this? What was the possible upside to this? Unless the BBC now feels that there is a growing large segment of its audience that it needs to cater for. And if that's the case, I'm sorry, but then we really, really need to start having a hard look at its funding.
Look, well done for covering the story. I'm sure that you put yourself in personal danger to do so, but it is something that, of course, needs much more attention. Those Christians who are being murdered in Nigeria. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Big round of applause, please, for David Patrick Arakos. The BBC will argue that they report with impartiality, of course. And in an earlier section on Islamophobia, we mentioned Dominic Grieve. He has responded to GB News, said, I did not support the APPG definition of Islamophobia. I was not a member of the APPGG. I wrote a foreword to the APPG report, which covered much more than a definition, and said it was an important contribution to a needed debate. I suggest that you look at the Citizens UK report on the missing Muslims to see what it was about, rather than rely only on the opinion of the FSU. Fair enough. Next on Free Speech Nation. Are the government still tying themselves up in knots when it comes to biological sex? There was a court case this week, but is what happened being reported properly? That is coming up next with Sex Matters. See you in a few minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading to Europe this half term, well, it's a mixed bag out there. Outbreaks of rain and some heavy showers and thunderstorms. Best of the sunshine, though, really confined to the Canary Islands and towards the south of Spain. Otherwise, outbreaks of rain across Portugal and northern Spain. Across the Mediterranean, that's where we're going to see areas of showers and thunderstorms pushing their way through. Otherwise, best of the sunshine really across the Canary Islands, highs of 25.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there and welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's been an unsettled end towards the weekend, which will spill over into Monday and be an unsettled start to the week. But as we head towards Tuesday, we do see the return of some sunshine and some brighter spells. But for the time being, though, we still have this larger low pressure system in charge, and we do have these weather fronts coming in this northwesterly breeze, which is driving these showers through much of the evening and through the overnight period. There are a few breaks across the southeast and across the northeast as well. Now, across the northeast, the temperatures are likely to fall away, so we are expecting to see a bit of a frost across Aberdeenshire by Monday morning. Not so much towards the south. We are clinging on to a relatively milder air for this time of year for the overnight period. But for the commuters, first thing Monday morning, there will be some brighter spells across southeastern England and across the southwest as well. But further north, we do have much more in the way of cloud, and a lot of these showers, especially across northern Scotland and those high hills, are likely to turn to snow by the early part of the morning. Like I said, a crisp start across Aberdeenshire. Likely to see some frosty patches here, so do take care first thing in the morning. But Monday is going to be a similar day towards Sunday. A lot of those showers around. Some of them could combine towards longer spells of rain across central and southern England. But between those showers, there will be some sunnier spells as well across the south and northeast of England, even parts of northern Scotland as well. But some wintry showers up towards here, which will be rather cold and snowy across those higher hills. Tuesday, a different story. A cold start to Tuesday. Plenty of frost and ice around Scotland, northern England and Northern Ireland, but bright, plenty of sunshine. A few showers just across the northeastern coast, maybe a little bit hazy towards the southwest. But through the week, we will see the return of rain, but temperatures, we will be struggling, and it will be on the cold side.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. The High Court has ruled that employees can legally ban trans women from female toilets. Activists sought to challenge the guidance that states public bodies should segregate public toilets and changing rooms based on biological sex rather than self-declared identity. The legal slapdown was a resounding victory for women's rights groups and gender-critical charities. But if ever we need a reminder that this debate still rages on, new guidance was published stating that primary school pupils will be allowed to change their gender. Though confirming that teachers must consult parents before a child's request to transition, the women's rights campaign group Sex Matters came out against the guidance, saying it would encourage a dangerous fairy tale. Joining me now to discuss these issues is the Director of Campaigns for Sex Matters, Fiona McAnena. Welcome to the show. Let's start with the first thing. There was a court case this week. Please tell us what happened.
So the Good Law, so-called Good Law Project, brought a legal challenge against the statement that the Equality and Human Rights Commission had put out last year, after the Supreme Court said, if it says man, that means male people. If it says woman, that means female people. There's no mixing those two up. The Equality and Human Rights Commission put out an interim statement to help people figure out what their legal responsibilities were, and that applies to employers who must provide single-sex toilets and changing rooms, and also public services, theatres, any public place who don't have to. But if they do, then the women's one is only for the female people. Now, we all used to know this. It wasn't difficult or complicated. But the Good Law Project didn't like it, and they brought a legal challenge, which was heard late last year. And we got the verdict on Friday, and the verdict was, it was all dismissed. Everything the Good Law Project said was dismissed as irrelevant. The law stands. What the Equality and Human Rights Commission had said was all lawful. It makes perfect sense, and we all know it.
Well, Fiona, sorry, I'm just a little bit confused because I don't understand what's going on here, because the Good Law Project put out a statement saying, oh, actually, we've got a bunch of victories for trans women. They said there's some other stuff that's bad, but actually there's some really good stuff that's come out of this case.
Yeah.
What's going on there, then?
They've already put out a crowdfunding appeal for more money, both to pay the costs that they have to pay because they lost this case, and they estimate that could be £300,000, and to raise money to appeal this case, and no idea how much that might be. So basically, they're already using this to try and raise money to go back to court. So clearly, if they'd won, they wouldn't need to go back to court. They wouldn't need to pay the other side's costs. But they made some strange claim that the case didn't say what it did say. But anyone can read the judgment. It's not that long. It's very clear.
Well, I would recommend people search a person called Michael Ferran, and he has written a sort of breakdown of their claims coming from the Good Law Project, and essentially one by one shows that things were taken out of context. He makes the accusation that this is a sort of almost willful misreading of the verdict. Now, the reason why this is important, and I understand that they are activists and they are pushing for what they see as trans rights, but when you have an organisation that is pushing out what some people would argue borders on misinformation, and that gets out to MPs. Now, this is the thing. I've seen a bunch of MPs essentially taking this Good Law Project statement and saying this is the truth of it, when it doesn't seem to be that that's the case. And that's dangerous, right?
It's very irresponsible. I mean, we already have people arguing that the Supreme Court judgment last year is not clear when it's perfectly clear. And now we have MPs saying that the Good Law Project somehow have won a victory. But the leader of the Good Law Project himself made a video in which he starts by saying, the court will tell you that we lost, the media will tell you that we lost, but... but what comes after the but isn't very convincing, except that they want to raise more money.
Yeah, I just because I'm not a legal expert. I'm not particularly intelligent. It was very easy for you to read it, and you read it, and it looks all nice and swish, and you go, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I don't really understand. And then I had to read this Michael Ferran article, and it sort of have to break it down, and it was very frustrating to have to use up all of my intellect to try and make sense of it. But yes, it seems like this was a definitive loss. And misrepresent, and to present it otherwise is a misrepresentation.
Oh, completely, without doubt. It's a definitive loss. And if you take any half a sentence out of context, you can try and make it mean the opposite of what it really means. But there's no doubt the whole point was they wanted to say the Equality and Human Rights Commission got it wrong, and the judge said, no, they didn't.
OK, so it sounds like a bit of wishful thinking. Let's talk about the other story this week. Finally, after it feels an eternity, it is actually it's 8 years, isn't it? I think since we were going to be getting the official advice for schools about how to deal with gender non-conforming children. What do you think about it? I think some people have concerns that there are good things, there are bad things. What's your personal read?
Yes, I think that there's a lot in it to welcome, but there's a loophole. And that loophole is a big problem. So what's good about it? First of all, instead of special guidance about gender questioning children, which is what was drafted under the previous government, this guidance is within the safeguarding framework. So that's the right place for it. You know, there aren't special children who need special rules. What there are boys and girls at school who all need to be looked after, educated and kept safe. And so in this guidance, it says you must record their sex properly, honestly, because otherwise you can't keep them safe. That's progress. It says teachers and schools may not initiate any conversation about transition or gender or
Which has happened at my children's school, where teachers have raised this stuff and said, oh, my friend, they were a boy and now they became a girl. You're telling that to 5-year-olds. That's, you know, you're indoctrinating them.
Yes, and that's particularly worrying because teachers who do that often will not tell the parents. And again, this guidance says you must tell the parents. And it also says if a child is thinking that they are somehow entitled to, you know, pretend to be the other sex, they need to understand they cannot use the toilets, the changing rooms, they cannot participate in the sport of the other sex, they cannot go in overnight accommodation meant for the other sex. So on the face of it, you'd say, finally, some common sense. But the problem is the chink of light that's been left for those activist teachers. Because there is then a little piece in there about, although social transition, as they call it, should be very rare, there is the possibility of that. And they don't say what that means. It doesn't. So we know that those children cannot use the opposite sex facilities, and yet there is still the possibility that a child who's a boy might present at school as if he's a girl, and that other children may be told that this is a girl.
And then we're talking about 4-year-olds. As well, or going all the way down to the age of 4.
Well, potentially. And you know, it even talks about the fact that the children with the biggest problem are the ones who are what they call in stealth. And Dr. Hilary Cass also talked about this. So if you have little 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, they can turn up at school, and honestly, depending on what they're wearing and how their hair is, it's hard to tell the boys and girls apart. Of course, puberty is the big reveal, isn't it, when there's no fooling anyone. And so what you have is children who've been sent to school. Their parents have told the teachers that they're the other sex, that some children will know, some children won't. It's basically a big lie that is being imposed on everyone in that school. And as they get older, it starts to become a real worry for those children because they're constantly terrified that someone will find out the truth. And this is what they mean by in stealth. Now, that's a terrible position to put a child in. And the problem with this guidance is it still doesn't rule that out.
Yeah, and arguably it's indoctrination. If they are there's being by stealth, but if they're also just there's nothing that specifically. Is there anything in here that just says that this should not? I mean, you said it shouldn't be talked about, but I've seen pictures of trays from people's schools for primary schools. You know, they put their art in those trays, and they've got pronouns like he, him on the trays. This is indoctrination for the children, and it's allowing these activist teachers. And let's not be naive that they're not out there. They exist. And they are trying to put their ideology into children's brains. Is there anything in there that says, this is wrong, you cannot do it?
No, and I think this is the problem. It's a sign of how embedded this whole ideology is, that they have not quite had the courage to say no. They've said, yes, you must register boys as boys and girls as girls, but they haven't had the courage to simply say, no child can pretend to be the opposite sex at school, and that cannot be kept a secret from anyone. And that's what they should be saying. They should be saying, you know, these children just need to grow up and be whatever they want to be, but the one thing they can't do is change sex. And it's actually very unkind and misleading for any adult around them to tell them that they can. And as you rightly say, there are activist teachers. And, you know, for the other children in the school, arguably just one child who is supposedly transitioning is enough to say this can happen, it's a thing. It sows doubt. It's a bit like, I would say this guidance is like a peanut-free treat where it's labelled 99% peanut-free, right? If you have a peanut allergy, 99% peanut-free is not good enough. If there's 1% peanut in there, well, that's what this guidance is like. It's full of good sense. If there are any nuts,
it's a boy.
Yeah. But all the way through this guidance, they say you have to know their sex, they shouldn't be in the wrong sex toilets, the parents have to be involved, the teachers mustn't raise it, and then suddenly they say social transition can happen. So it's not good enough.
Because, again, Bridget Phillipson, this was sat on for such a long time, and there are some significant things that were taken out from the original legislation, to my understanding of it. How do you think that is going to fit in with, because also sitting on the desk is the EHRC guidance, the final guidance now. So do you think that they're going to fudge that as well?
Well, there are two things to say about what's just happened, and these two things are connected. So it feels like this school's guidance has left enough space for the puberty blockers trial to happen, because the National Health Service is going to treat 200 children and block their puberty, and those children will be at school pretending that they're the other sex. So it feels like they've had to do this guidance in order to let that happen. Of course, we don't know whether that trial will happen because there's a legal challenge against that. But
well done, by the way, to Kira Bell, who I believe has
Kira Bell and James Esses have put a mark on it.
in
Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland.
Yes, they have. They have very sensible schools guidance in Northern Ireland. It's only a page long. It says boys are boys, girls are girls, never forget it, more or less. And they've stopped children from Northern Ireland taking part in this puberty blockers trial. And that case will be heard here in the UK to apply to the rest of the UK. But the other thing to say about the EHRC guidance is it was rumoured that they were waiting for the result of this Good Law Project court case, and we've had that now. And that has clearly said whatever the EHRC said about what the law meant, their interpretation was legally sound. So there is now no barrier, should be no reason for that guidance not to be published.
So we'll see if it actually does finally emerge. Well, thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Big round of applause, please. Fiona McAnena. I forgot, I wanted to say something. I know last time you were on, you were talking about your book, Turf Island. What's the subtitle, Turf Island?
How the UK resisted trans ideology.
How the UK resisted trans ideology. It's on audio. As well as an audio book. I would highly recommend it. Even if you're not interested in the whole, trans stuff, this is about how activists fight back. It's an incredibly interesting book. So, thank you very much for joining us. Next, wait a minute, let me say, Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson said the new guidance would deliver pragmatic support for teachers, reassurance for parents, and above all, the safety and well-being of children and young people. And the Good Law Project director and founder said, this wave away of workplace gossip, evidence of what is meant to be outed is increasingly transphobic and violent society, was deeply troubling. I urge the judiciary to listen harder to what trans people say about what their lives have become. The GLP said it planned to appeal against the decision. Next on Free Speech Nation, Welby might be gone, but is the Church of England's woke crusade very much still alive? That is coming up after the break.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
And you see, I would have thought that the stammer business had gone away, right? But it hasn't gone away. It'll always be with you, but you control it very well. Indeed, we should point out that Gareth has his voice coach, Amy, in the studio today, here in case anything goes wrong?
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. Having a stammer, you know, unfortunately there's no cure for it. But I'm part of a speech therapy program called the Maguire program. Myself and my coach Amy is on the same program, and we help each other. And we learn a new way of breathing, new way of speaking, and most importantly, a new way of tackling the mindsets which come with having a stammer, which is fear. This is my most fearful situation.
But my friend, when you get up on that stage and you put a microphone in your hand and you sing, are you worried about it then? Does it manifest itself then?
No, I mean, every time I sing, or, you know, I've done big West End shows where I've had to act and, you know, read pages of dialogue.
Yeah.
It's just not an issue because I adopt a different persona. I'm not me. I'm, you know, whatever mask I'm wearing, whatever character I'm playing. I'm really unsure how I'll fare without my top on in this next show that I'm doing, Boy Band in the Buff, but let's see.
What is the stammer caused by then? Because some people, you said it's incurable, so that means that there's actually something, there's an issue.
Yeah, it's certainly a kind of mindset thing. It's actually based upon fear, and you know, we have to sort of retrain ourselves. And you know, if you're scared of heights, for instance, what's the best thing to do? To go to the highest building, and eventually you'll get close to the edge.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Howie. Dioceses of London clergy are now to be encouraged to promote anti-racism in sermons through a racial justice priority project. Their clergy will also be told to have unconscious bias training for volunteers, and targets will be set for percentages of ethnic minority memberships. Previous Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, often cited the term institutionally racist when referring to the Church of England, while the new Archbishop, Dame Sarah Mullally, has been urged to scarp £100 million plans for slavery reparations. But are these not another example of the Church's woke crusade that is responsible for driving away their flock? With me to discuss this is the British historian and journalist Bijan Omrani. Hello, welcome to the show. I guess give him a round of applause. You wrote an article that pointed out, rightly so, why is the Church of England not focusing on those heroes who helped to stop slavery around the world?
I know it's a very extraordinary thing. I mean, firstly, if you want to combat a problem, instead of making people feel very bad about it on very spurious grounds, why not show them a light and an example about the good things we've done in the past in order to sort of get rid of so many of those problems, not just here, but around the world. And Britain's history of anti-racism, abolishing slavery, and not just Britain, but the Diocese of London. I mean, this initiative that we talked about, £730,000 over 3 years to promote unconscious bias training and so on. Think back to the early Bishop of London, Bilby Porteous, so a great name, who in the 1780s used his pulpit and his seat in the House of Lords to preach against and proclaim the need to abolish slavery, the slave trade. And again, not just him, but people in his diocese, the very famous Clapham sect, Wilberforce, all the MPs and clergy he had around him, who were not just campaigning in Parliament, but having petitions, boycotting slave sugar, getting the slave trade banned, and then in 1807, and then campaigning all the way through the 1810s, 20s, 30s to the abolition of the whole concept of slavery per se, and then working even later on to ban it and suppress it throughout the world and the British Empire in particular. So there's an amazing record of people from the Church of England and from Christian churches, dissenting churches in England, working really practically with real results to suppress slavery. And it's just extraordinarily unfortunate, I'll use that very neutral word at the beginning, that all of the racial justice material that's been poured out by the Church of England over the last few years, it's reports from the Archbishop's Racial Justice Commission, Task Force, they do all of this history down. They don't want to talk about it, they belittle it, they don't adduce it as examples, and they only want to bring out or suggest the bad where there is actually no bad to find.
Well, isn't that... I mean, the example of Jesus is that he did these amazing things and behaved in this moral manner, and then people would want to emulate his example. Well, here you have Christians who fought for, William Welby, for his entire life for the banning of slavery. You would think that the Church of England would then want to promote him as much as possible as an example for other people, rather than just condemning themselves.
Exactly. I mean, you want to use inspiration as the way forward. And the things that they did, it was so practical. They weren't tinkering around with HR initiatives or trying to get people to do unconscious bias training. It was everything from actually getting legislation through the Lords, actually being on the international diplomatic stage, even in the period around the Napoleonic Wars, dealing with the Congress of Vienna, trying to get all the European nations to step back from slavery. And then throughout the 19th century, thinking, OK, how do we actually stop slaves from being captured in Africa? How do we make it economically and in business terms not worthwhile for slavery to take place? And for example, people like Livingstone going into the universities and going to the young men in the 1850s and 1860s, these young men who could have very comfortable lives in Britain, in business, in the professions, and saying to them, look, go to Africa.
The point is, there is more to be explored here, and the Church should be pushing these figures. Thank you very much for joining us, British historian journalist Bijan Omrani. We have reached out to the Church of England as well as the Diocese of London. We are still waiting a response. However, in The Guardian, the Right Reverend Dr. Anderson Jeremiah, the Bishop of Edmonton and the Diocese of London's lead Bishop on racial justice, said whether it's Bible studies, baptismal preparations, confirmation preparations or sermons, what we would like to actively promote is racial justice as one of the ways of engaging with the challenge of the Church, though resources can be used in these spaces. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this evening's Free Speech Nation. Thank you very much for all of our guests and our audience. Right now, we're going to go to Alex Armstrong and hear what he's got on his show this evening.
Thank you so much, Josh. Brilliant show. Look, I'm going to be giving you the most comprehensive deep dive into the Free Speech Union's report into the Islamophobia working group tonight on my show. It is really comprehensive. We're going to deep dive into all the allegations there. Of course, another Starmer Slee scandal, a Labour Slee scandal here. That's coming up next.
Make sure you don't miss the chance to grab an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash. And that's not all. Courtesy of Riviera Travel, there's a terrific £10,000 holiday for two to be won. Choose from over 30 worldwide destinations like Thailand, South Africa, or even Sri Lanka. There's just 2 weeks left to enter. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on